I stand before you today with a heart full of respect for our past and a spirit dedicated to our future. In the quiet moments between duty and affection, we find a force unspoken, yet unmistakable, the gravity that binds us, between sisters, between generations, between a people and the promise of tomorrow. Body of speech, I wish first to speak of the bond I share with my sister, Sophia. From our earliest memories, we have grown side by side, different in our ways, united in our purpose. That closeness, that sense of being together in the journey, is not just of private comfort, but of public commitment. For when one of us steps forward to serve, the other stands by not only as family, but as ally. We learn from the same examples of devotion, we witness the same hopes for our country, and we carry together the gravity of those responsibilities that history entrusts us with. To serve is to acknowledge that nothing great is achieved alone. In our home, we have been taught that service is born of humility and perseverance. I have learned that the title I hold is not a badge of privilege, but a promise to every citizen, every community, every young person who looks ahead and asks, "What will I contribute?" My sister and I ask that same question of ourselves. And as we walk forward, we carry both pride and humility, pride in the heritage that we embrace, and humility in the knowledge that it is what we do, not what we have, that defines us. The gravity between us, between sisters, between duty and desire, between tradition and transformation, reminds me that our future is not predetermined by the past, but shaped by the choices we make today. The world is ever changing, its challenges many, of equality, of climate, of connectivity. And it is precisely in these moments that the pull of unity becomes our anchor. My sister and I do not only share a name or lineage, we share a hope that together we might lead by example, with respect for our Constitution, for our freedoms, for the diverse Spain that we will serve. I ask each of you, young and old, to feel that same pull, the invitation to step beyond what is comfortable, to engage with what matters, to bind your hopes to action. For in service we find meaning, in togetherness we find strength. Impressive closing in conclusion, let us remember that gravity is not a burden but a bond. The weight we carry is not meant to weigh us down, but to draw us together, in purpose, in friendship, in shared commitment. My sister, Sophia, and I pledge to walk this path with you, to honor the trust you place in us, and to build a Spain that affirms the dignity of every individual. May our bond inspire yours, may our service reflect yours, and may the gravity between us become the light that guides our journey into tomorrow. It is with deep affection and solemn recognition that I reflect today upon the bond I share with my sister. The closeness between us is not born simply of family ties, but of shared journey, mutual support, and a growing sense of collective responsibility. From childhood, we walked side by side, learning the same lessons, within the same walls, with the same hope for what lay ahead. I cannot imagine one path without the other. My sister's presence is woven into every step I take. When I look at her, I see a companion, an ally, someone who knows not only the comfort of friendship, but also the weight of expectation. In those moments of laughter, of shared whispers in the early evening, of exams, and of quiet reflection, we found each other. And as the years have passed, that personal closeness has grown into something broader, a recognition that our lives are not our own alone. We belong to each other in more ways than one, and we belong, in service, to something greater than ourselves. There is a gravity silent, persistent, that draws us together. It draws us toward one another when the world around us reminds us of duty, of commitment, of the long view. In private, we might exchange jokes, reminisce about childhood stories, tease each other gently. These are precious, these are necessary, for they keep us grounded. But in public, when the moment asks for composure, for clarity, for reflection, we stand together not just as sisters, but as partners in purpose. It is in that duality, that tenderness at home and steadfastness in service, that our bond finds its deepest meaning. My sister often reminds me of values I hold dear: humility in achievement, gratitude in opportunity, and a willingness to listen before seeking to be heard. I hope that I, in turn, bring to her that same spirit, an openness, a safe space, a reminder that she is never alone in this path. There is solace in knowing that someone else understands the quiet moments of doubt, the sudden surge of responsibility, the gentle longing for a normal day, and knowing that I am that someone for her gives me strength. Together we learn what it means to carry duty. Not as a burden, but as a promise. We have grown up in the knowledge that our titles, our position, our public presence, these are not ends in themselves. They are opportunities to serve, and service is not solitary. It calls for connection, for reliance, for a shared heart and shared vision. My sister and I, ever since we were young, have been shaped by the idea that the work we are given is not to mark us apart, but to bring us closer to one another and to all those we serve. There is a special kind of comfort in that closeness. On the morning of tasks and engagements, when the responsibility feels heavy, when the audience is large and the spotlight intense, I feel her presence. It is unspoken. It is a glance, a nod, the smallest reassurance that I am not carrying this alone. And in those moments, when the weight of expectation settles, it is the shared bond that lifts the load. Together we step forward, together we meet the challenge, together we hold the promise, but equally the bond allows us to remain ourselves. In our quieter moments, walking through palace corridors, chatting by a window, remembering our earliest days, we are simply sisters. Someone who knows your joys, your fears, your hopes. Someone who teases you, who supports you, who stands by you. That human link, the everyday, the unspectacular, is what allows us to face the extraordinary with grace. That familiarity becomes a foundation beneath us, steady and sure. In our shared duty, we recognize that service is not about recognition. It is about the people whose lives we touch, those who may never know our names, but who feel the impact of our commitment. My sister and I often speak quietly of this, how our roles lead us into encounters with individuals whose story humbles us, whose courage teaches us. In those encounters I see reflected the value of our bond, two voices united, two hearts aligned, rising to meet the call together. And so, when I speak of the responsibility we embrace, I speak with her alongside me, not behind, not before, but alongside. Because unity does not mean the erasure of difference, it means the celebration of each other's strengths, the recognition of each other's fears, and the willingness to lift one another when needed. In our companionship, we discover that the path is less daunting, the burden less isolating. Service becomes a shared walk, not a solitary climb. As we move toward the future, we do so aware of our heritage, respectful of the traditions we inherit, but also mindful of the present moment. Times are changing, expectations grow, the world around us demands not only continuity, but innovation, empathy, and courage. When uncertainty arises, I find reassurance in knowing that my sister is beside me, that together we can adapt, learn, and respond. That is the most precious thing, not only to stand for something, but to stand with someone. I think of the values handed to us: honesty, effort, respect for others, love for our country, service without expectation of applause. These are not just words, they are lived, and my sister models them as much as anyone. She reminds me that the best work happens often quietly, away from the camera, when one chooses to step forward not because one must, but because one wishes to make a difference. I wish that in her presence I reflect that choice as well. We will continue this journey together, side by side, hand in hand, in the moments of public duty and the mere private ones. The world will watch, it will ask questions, it will need leaders who are steady, sincere, engaged. I believe that in our closeness, our trust in one another, we are preparing for that, not simply as colleagues, but as sisters whose bond strengthens our service rather than defines our station. Our merit will not come from the title we hold, but the work we do, the respect we earn, and the unity we foster. In the end, perhaps the greatest lesson I learn from her is this, that when you walk with someone who truly knows you, the journey becomes not just manageable, but joyful. The weight becomes lighter, the purpose clearer, and the hope brighter. The bond between us does not diminish our individual selves, it amplifies our shared purpose. And for that I am deeply grateful. May we always remember that in lifting one another, we lift those we serve. And may our bond continue to be a source of strength, inspiration, and hope not just for us, but for all who believe in service, in unity, and in the future we build together. It is with profound conviction that I reflect on the truth of purpose, how it anchors us, guides us, and transforms our most ordinary hours into moments of meaning. The gravity of purpose is not something visible or easily measured. Rather, it is the unseen pull that stirs our hearts, shapes our decisions, and invites us to rise beyond ourselves. It is the quiet insistence that asks, "What will I do with the gifts entrusted to me? How will I answer the call?" In my life, I have learned that titles and honors do not define one's role. What matters is the daily fidelity to those small acts that align with something larger. The purpose I speak of is rooted in service, service to our country, service to our fellow citizens, service to the future we will inherit and share. We live in times when the pace of change is swift, when headlines are many and attention fleeting, yet purpose demands steadiness. It requires us to stand firm in what we believe, to hold fast to what we know to be right, even when the world offers shortcuts or easy illusions. When I consider my obligations not only as an individual, but as someone who will one day serve in roles that belong to all, I feel the weight of that gravity. But I have also come to understand that weight is not burdensome, it is an invitation, it is a challenge to live with intention, to let our actions echo our convictions. With each public appearance, each handshake, each moment of listening, I remind myself, this is not about me alone. It is about the trust placed in us, about the bonds we share as a people, about the future that must be earned through diligence and responsibility. Purpose, then, becomes the compass when the terrain is uncertain. There are occasions in life when change seems relentless, when the demands of society grow louder than our capacity to respond, when expectations mount. In those moments, the gravity of purpose holds us steady. It reminds us that sincerity, effort, and consistency matter, that the path we walk is not always bright, but the destination rests on values we hold dear. In acknowledging the challenges, inequality, disruption, mistrust, we also affirm that our work matters all the more. Because the greater the need, the more powerful the force of meaning becomes. I am inspired by those who dedicate themselves quietly and persistently to improving the lives of others. Their commitment reveals the pull of purpose in its truest form. It teaches us that greatness is not always loud. Often it is rooted in the unseen visits to distant communities, late hours of reflection, the decision to step forward when it would be easier Step back, I look at their example, and I ask myself, can I do likewise? Can I channel my own training, my own position, my own voice into endeavors that extend beyond me? Let this be our shared conviction, to carry out our tasks with humility, to engage with our obligations with heart, to recognize that our privileges are opportunities. The pull of purpose calls us to stand not because it is glamorous, but because it is necessary. It asks of us patience, because true change rarely arrives overnight. It calls on us to trust in the long game, that our efforts today will resonate tomorrow. And yes, it invites us to hope, even when the outlook may seem daunting. Because purpose is not static. It evolves with the needs of our society, with the dreams of our youth, with the hopes of all those who are not yet heard. It compels us to listen, to learn, to adapt. It reminds us that leadership is not simply about being set apart. It is about being present. Being present in conversations that matter, being present in moments of silence, being present when someone needs a steady hand or an open mind. The gravity of purpose is that presence anchored in the service of others. I think of my role not as a destination reached, but as a journey begun. A voyage in which every interaction, every gesture, every decision is imbued with intention. And in that journey, I acknowledge the support of those around me, family, friends, mentors, fellow citizens. They remind me that purpose is communal. It is strengthened by partnership and collaboration. It grows through trust, nurtured by shared values and unified effort. Because no one stands alone when guided by purpose, as we travel this path together, let us remember that the pull we feel is a gift. It compels us to align our talents with our responsibilities. It challenges us to translate aspiration into action. In moments of doubt, let us look back at what sparked this journey, the belief in something greater, the desire to serve, the acknowledgement that our days matter. Let that reminder be the wind at our backs when the climb feels steep. And so, as I move forward in the life I have been given, I pledge to embrace that pull wholeheartedly. To lean into the gravity of purpose, not because it is easy, but because it is right, to carry it with humility. To listen more than speak, to give more than receive, to hold fast to hope, to remain steadfast in conviction, and to act with kindness and clarity for others. For in the end, what we leave behind is not our title, but the difference we made, not the position we held, but the lives we touched. May each of us feel that pull, be guided by it, live by it, and in doing so, may we make real the promise of a future where purpose is our compass and service our legacy. It is with a hopeful heart that I reflect on what lies ahead, not just for myself, but for all of us. As I look toward the horizon of our shared journey, I am filled with the conviction that the days before us hold promise, opportunity, and a new kind of responsibility. The future is not something we wait for. It is something we build together, step by deliberate step, with the awareness that our actions today sculpt the world of tomorrow. We stand at a moment of transition. The world around us changes rapidly, technology evolves, societies shift, challenges arise in new forms. And yet, precisely because of that, we have reason to hope. Hope not merely because things might improve, but because we have it within our power to help shape improvement. We have the privilege and duty to channel our training, our voice, our commitment into endeavors that extend beyond our individual selves. When we embrace a forward-looking mindset, we acknowledge that the weight of our role is not a burden, but a call to meaningful action. In this spirit, I invite you and myself to consider what it means to look ahead with courage. To imagine a world where barriers to opportunity are replaced by bridges, where young voices are heard not as echoes but as catalysts, where service is not a duty borne reluctantly, but a privilege embraced gladly. I aspire to lead and live with that spirit, not because the tasks are easy, but because the stakes are worth our effort. When we set our gaze on the horizon, we do so mindful of those already on the journey, of those who will join us in the days to come, and of the legacy we will hand on. There is a particular strength in being part of a generation that can both honor what has been and innovate for what will be. Tradition is a guide, not a cage. Heritage is a foundation, not a ceiling, and innovation does not require the dismissal of the past, but the readiness to build upon it. I commit to being not only a guardian of values, but an advocate for evolution, an evolution grounded in fairness, openness, and respect for all. For the future we seek will be inclusive, not selective, will listen, not simply speak, will serve, not simply preside. It is crucial to recognize that hope is not passive. It is not the silent wish that something happens. It is an active stance, a decision to believe that something can happen, and therefore to invest our time, our resources, our energy toward it. When I think of the countless young people around our country and beyond dreaming of education, of equality, of dignity, I am reminded that hope becomes real when it meets action, and that the gravity of our purpose is felt most strongly when we act. I pledge to be such an actor in this story of tomorrow. The world will ask of us more than words. It will ask for consistency, for empathy, for the willingness to listen, even when it is uncomfortable. It will ask for the humility to admit mistakes and the resilience to rise again. I accept that ask. I accept this journey knowing that it will not always be smooth, but believing that its destination is worthy. For in moments of uncertainty, the firmest hope is one built on steady feet and a clear moral compass. Together, with my sister by my side, with you who follow this journey, and with all who believe in a shared future, we move forward. We move forward in service of a greater cause, the well-being of our society, the empowerment of its youth, the strengthening of its values, and the extension of its voice to corners yet unheard. May our actions today reflect the magnitude of our hopes for tomorrow, and may our society, diverse, vibrant, ambitious, continue to carry within it the promise of what we can become. I hold this hope in my heart not as a fleeting sentiment, but as a commitment to show up, to listen, to serve, to lead, not for personal recognition, but for collective uplift, not for titles, but for trust, not for admiration, but for results. And as we walk forward, may the vision that guides us be one where opportunity is abundant, service is honored, and our shared humanity is our greatest asset. So let us dare to imagine, let us dare to strive, let us dare to build with humility, with resolve, and with the clear confidence that the future is ours to shape. And with that shared belief, I step into tomorrow hand in hand with all of you, committed, hopeful, and ready.